Okay, so PBR in Unity, let's go through it in a lot more detail. So like I said, we'll be using the standard shader in Unity, which is the metallic. And the three most important maps in this shader, in my opinion, are albedo, metallic and normal. And you can see them over here on the right hand side. Albedo, metallic, normal. There are other maps, obviously height, occlusion, detail mask, emission, and we'll cover all of these in this lecture. But let's go through them one by one, and we're going to start with albedo. And this is the albedo slot here. The albedo parameter or slot, whatever you want to call it, the albedo space parameter controls the base color of the surface material. That's it, just the color. You can either use a single color, which goes in here, so you click that, and in a moment I'm going to go through this with you literally inside Unity, and you can see it happening. You can choose a single color, which you pick from a picker here, or you can place a texture map into the albedo slot, which is what I got in this example here, and you can see a little tiny icon of it there. So the albedo is just a straightforward flat texture. It must not, under any circumstances, have any shadow or lighting information within that texture. It gets calculated through the engine. You don't need to put any shadowing or lighting in that texture. Unlike the old days when we used to do diffuse, we used to sort of sometimes bake in some ambient occlusion and some shadows and add a bit, add highlights and lighting into the diffuse map. We don't do that anymore. And that's the fundamental difference between albedo and diffuse. Albedo is it's a flat base color. It's not a rendered diffuse map with shadows and lighting baked into it. That's diffuse. This is albedo. So it's flat and has no shadow or lighting information. Also, the alpha channel of the albedo map, and I'll show you this in a moment, can be used to define transparency, or the transparency levels. You can have semi-transparency or full. Let's just go to the next one. Okay, so here is my albedo map that I'm going to put into the albedo slot within Unity. So it's just color, no lighting. You can see it's just a flat color. These little grayish blobs are dirt, and the redder blobs are going to define the rust, and you'll see this come alive. So that's what it looks like. That's an albedo map when you start. This here below it is the alpha channel of that map. I've separated them because I couldn't show them together, and I wanted to show them together, but they are part of the same image file. So that's the alpha channel, and this is the RGB channel of the albedo map. And if you're not familiar with how it works, white represents solidity, so it's anything that's white will show up in the texture map. Anything that's black, you'll be able to see through it. Anything in between is sort of semi-transparent. So let's go and have a look at it inside Unity. Here is a scene, and I forgot to mention at the start, I've included this as a Unity package which you can download, and it'll have this exact scene inside it with all the materials and these spheres all set up. So what we have here is just a bunch of materials are set up just purely for this lecture to demonstrate how they work. All these spheres here are just different metals, like we've got iron, and we've got silver, aluminium, titanium, nickel, obviously gold there, and I'll just go through all of these as we go through this lecture. And I've got a cube there with a couple of different materials on it, and again I'm going to show you how I put that together quite easily. And then we've got this base here, and this is the one we've just been talking about. So what I'm going to do is go into my material for that, and this is what you saw just now. I took a snapshot of this and included it in the presentation I was doing prior. So what I'm going to do is take out all the, and you can see this is the end result. This is what we're going for. So you can see that it's got holes in it. It's a grate for the floor. It's got holes in it. It's metal. It's got, you know, it's shiny, and you can see here if I look closely, what I've done is I've towed the shader to render the metal bits, which are still a bit crappy and a bit bumpy, a bit old, to be shiny, but where it's rusty, it's dull and flat. And like I said, we'll get to that. So what I'm going to do is take this one apart, so, and we'll build it back up as we go. So let's delete the albedo, gone. Let's delete the metallic, and let's delete the normal map. So all I've got here is flat planes, basically, with this floor material assigned to it. Just dragging it onto there, but you know, don't worry about that. We'll get to all that in a moment. So here's my albedo map, and you can see it's showing the alpha that's attached to it also. If I just click this little button here, which is showing, so that's switched on, showing RGB. If I click it, it's just showing the alpha. So you can see that image here is selected, and it's being displayed in our viewer here, and I'm flipping between the alpha channel and the RGB channel. And the RGB channel I showed you in my presentation just now, and the alpha channel, so it's that. So all I'm going to do is select my floor material and drag this material into the albedo like this and drop it in, and you can see it instantly is displayed. Not quite as good as it was just now, but it's there, and it's been displayed. And this will be set to opaque when you start, and that's what it looks like, opaque. And we know that it's not opaque because I have an alpha channel and I've got a hose in it. So for that I need to set a different rendering mode. I need to tell it that it's got cutout in the alpha. So just select cutout, and it will display the alpha, where the black is on the alpha channel and where the white is on the alpha channel. So the white is solid, the black is transparent, so you can see through it. Very cool. It's shiny because I've got smoothness up. Take the smoothness down. Yeah, so we'll cover the smoothness in a minute, but there you go, that's more like it. So it's dead flat, no lighting, nothing inside it. It's just dead flat. It's, all it's got is the flat color and the alpha, and that's it. Okay, cool. So I hope that's clear. So albedo is just flat color and alpha if you need it. Albedo doesn't have to have alpha. It's only there if you're going to use it for things like this, cutting holes. Just to prove to you that it is actually a hole, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to copy my iron ball. Paste it. Just move it underneath, just so you can see that it is. There you go. So you can see that it is actually alpha there. There you go. Cool. Don't need that. So you can see it's one-sided. It's rendering just one side of this plane. There we go. Okay, so finishing up with albedo before we move on to metallic. An albedo texture can be any sort of standard image type, JPEG, PNG, etc. This here was a TGA, and I just dropped it into Unity. And again, I'm going to be showing you that, but it's yeah, some TGA, 32-bit if it's got alpha, 24-bit if it hasn't, it's fine. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so let's move on to metallic.